Good morning, second graders. I hope you had fun creating some tally charts yesterday. Today we're going to use that data again, and we are going to be building something called a pictograph or a picture graph. So our objective is we can and we will draw and label a picture graph or pictograph to represent data with up to 4 categories. So yesterday we organized information or data about animals into tables using tally marks and numbers. A picture graph is another way we can show data. So just like the tally chart shows how many, so does a picture graph. What do you think we use to show the data on a picture graph? So think about it. In a tally chart, we use tallies. In a picture graph, we use pictures. Okay, so I want you to pause here and create a table, a graph kind of like mine. You need to make sure you have 4 areas for your categories and an area for your title and then a main area for your graph. Go ahead. When you're ready, click play. Since graphs help us understand information, we need to know what the graph is about. So we talked about using the same data from yesterday, so what do you think the title of our graph can be called? Pause to think about it, press play when you're ready. We're going to call it animal classification, just like what we called our chart yesterday. So yes, our picture graph is going to have the same information, so let's write the same title on the line above the graph. So now just on the top of the line, on the top of the graph right here, please write animal classification. All right, what are the 4 categories of the animals we classified? So thinking back to your tally chart yesterday, what were the 4 different categories? We're going to use those same ones today. They were bird, mammal, reptile, and fish. So now I want you to remember our tally chart from yesterday, and please write these labels in the same order that they appear on this table. So bird, mammal, reptile, fish. Pause right here and add your categories to your picture graph. When you're ready, press play. Okay, so why do you think it's important that we write the categories in the same order that they appeared on the table? So we don't get confused, right? If we're taking data from one place and putting it in another place, we want it to look the same so we don't write the numbers wrong. Sometimes if we start putting things in different orders, it can get super confusing. So we want to be sure our data matches up. So now we're going to draw a picture in each box to represent each animal recorded by a tally mark on our table. As always, it's math, not art. So we want to be quick and efficient. Efficient means the fastest way possible and not wasting time. We don't have time or enough space on our chart to draw a whale or a polar bear over and over again in these little boxes. So a circle is a fast way to draw something, and it can stand for whatever we want it to stand for. So today we're going to be drawing with circles. Today our circles will be our picture or symbol. So remember in a picture graph we have pictures. Those pictures stand for something else. So we call if a picture stands for something else, we call it a symbol. So this is our symbol for animals. A circle represents an animal. Each circle represents one animal, and we'll draw one circle for each tally mark. So looking at the bird column, we have 4 tally marks. How many circles are we going to draw in the bird row? Right, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I want you guys to do now is pause and draw your 4 circles for your bird. Okay. We need to add one more piece of information to our graph. We have to tell people what those circles stand for. So usually that is called a legend or a key. It'll say a circle equals one animal. Circle doesn't stand for a box of crayons, does it? No, we want to make sure people understand exactly why we're drawing it. What does a circle represent? A circle stands for one animal. So add the legend to your graph. I put mine over here and I call mine a key because they can be called keys or legends. So mine says circle equals one animal. Please add that to your graph. You can also write it below or up here, wherever you want, but just close to your graph so that anyone who's looking at it know what those circles stand for or represent. It's also helpful to write the total for each category count on the right of the graph. So let's do that and complete the graph. So I had 4 birds, I put a 4. 8 mammals, there should be 8 circles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the number 8. 5 reptiles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the number 5. 3 fish, 1, 2, 3, and the 3. Remember to have your key. So I want you to pause right now and complete your picture graph, making sure you have all the same data that I do, and then press play when you're ready. Now that we have our graphs, we're ready to ask and answer some questions about the data. So the first question I have for you guys is, how many birds, mammals, and reptiles did we count? So think about how you would solve this, pause, and try and solve. When you're ready, press play. Okay, so there were 4 birds, 8 mammals, and 5 reptiles. So to find the total, I wanted to add those all together. So I did 4 birds, 8 mammals, 5 reptiles. I added 4 plus 8 plus 5. You can add this whichever way you like. I made a 10. I took 2, because 2 and 8 makes it 10. There was 2 left over, so that was 12. 12 and 5 is 17. So going back to my question, there were 17 birds, mammals, and reptiles. Pause and make sure you got the same answer. If not, check to see where you made your mistake. We're going to move on to the next question. This is a 2-part question. Which category has the fewest animals and the most? So for 2 questions here. Remember, fewest means least. So let's always think about when we see that word fewest, we mean the least amount. So which category has the least amount of animals? You can look at this really easily by seeing where the dots stop. The fewest was the fish. And which category had the most? Just look to see which one has the most dots. Mammals. Mammals have 8 and fish have 3. So I wrote the fewest is fish and the most is mammals. Next question. How many fewer reptiles are there than mammals? So remember, a how many fewer question is very similar to a how many more question. It means we have to subtract. So how many fewer reptiles are there than mammals? Notice we want to see how many less reptiles there are. So we said reptiles first. This is going to be a subtraction problem. So I want you to pause right now and try and solve how many fewer reptiles are there than mammals. Go ahead. There were 5 reptiles and 8 mammals, so I did a subtraction problem to figure out how many fewer reptiles, but we always put, when we're subtracting, our larger number to start with, because we can't subtract 8 from 5. 8 minus 5 gave us 3, so our sentence is, there are 3 fewer reptiles than mammals. If you got that right, excellent job, kiss your brains. If you're struggling, maybe go back to the chart just to look at how we picked where we got those numbers from and how we chose to solve. Okay, now it's your turn to ask a comparison question. Use the sentence frame, how many fewer blank are there than blank? So this is the sentence I really want you to focus on. How many fewer blank are there than blank? Ask a family member or write it down and then solve it on your own. So one thing to pay attention to, fewer means less. So whichever category has less should be said first. Because it wouldn't make any sense if I said how many fewer mammals are there than birds. Would it? No, because there aren't less mammals than birds. So whichever category has less, we have to say first. Pause to solve. Okay. I wrote down a bunch of different possible questions you could have asked and solved for. So I said, how many fewer fish are there than reptiles? How many fewer fish are there than mammals? And how many fewer fish are there than birds? There were fewer fish than anything else, so I can ask that about all of the other categories. I also said how many fewer birds are there than mammals, how many fewer birds are there than reptiles, and how many fewer reptiles are there than mammals. Your question should have been one of these because these are all the possible choices that you could have asked with the smaller amount first. So going back to the chart, remember we have to say the smaller amount first if we're asking how many fewer. So if you did not get one of these questions, pause and check out where your mistake was. If you're confused, remember you can always message me or ask a parent to help you if they're around. Next question. We're going to ask another question that's pretty similar, but this one is, how many more are there? How many more blank are there than blank? So write it down, solve it, ask a friend, a parent or brother or sister to solve it. I just want you to practice asking these types of questions because you will have to ask them again on your problem set and exit ticket. Okay, so now remember this one says how many more. So in the last one, fewer was first, so we put the category with the least amount first. The category with more should come first in this question, since this question asks how many more. So it wouldn't make sense for me to say how many more birds are there than mammals, would it? No, because there's less birds than mammals. So I have to put the one with the most first. So a possible question I could have asked was how many more mammals are there than birds? But remember with how many more we solve using subtraction. So even though it says how many more, we need to remember that's how we solve. So pause and solve. When you're ready, press play, and I'll show you all the possible choices that you could have written. So here they are. How many more birds are there than fish? How many more reptiles are there than birds? How many more reptiles are there than fish? And then mammals had the most, so we can compare those to all other categories. How many more mammals, oh I forgot the word more. How many more mammals are there than birds? How many more mammals are there than reptiles? And how many more mammals are there than fish? So hopefully your answer was one of those. If not, go back and look at the chart to see where you got confused. Remember that the larger category should come before the smaller in a how many more question. And then for both of these questions, you should have solved using subtraction. Okay. I also want to point out that you can also make this graph vertically. So before we made it in rows, but if you'd like, you can also make the graphs using columns. It doesn't matter as long as you have the category at the bottom or on the side. You have a legend, a title, and your numbers. So as long as you have all parts of a picture graph, you can make it going up and down or side to side. All right, that's all for today. On your agenda, you also have another picture graph video and another picture graph worksheet. So if you are confused with picture graphs, go check out that other video too. It might help you. All right, I'm going to quickly go over the problem set. It looks like you're making more picture graphs. So here's your data table. You're going to create a picture graph, add a title, categories, a legend or a key. Put circles for your pictures. Make sure they go right above the categories. You don't want to put them all over the place. It would get confusing. And then answer the questions. D, you're going to write your own comparison question. So a how many more or how many less question. Number 2 is pretty much exactly the same. You have a tally chart. You're going to create your own picture graph. This is just like the one we did in our work today. So you're going to put your categories here on the side. Your legend is down here, or key. Title here. Same thing, answer questions, and then write your own question, just like we did. If you guys, when you're writing your own question for the problem sets for C and for D, go back into the video to those questions that have like these frames, how many more are there or how many fewer are there. Those will help you to write your own comparison questions because yours should have the same sentence frame and you're just filling in the different categories. Lastly, for your exit ticket, you're going to use grid paper to create a picture graph. So this is your grid paper. You're creating a picture graph below. Same thing you did for number 1. Here's your data. Here are your questions. This one you don't even have to write your own question. So have fun. Today I left a little animation in here for you guys. So here you go. Here's a little dancing alien. Have fun, guys. This will be really great. And remember that you can check out the other picture graph video if you need more help.